Is good, defenders, and welcome to episode 303 of the most LAFC podcast on earth. I'm bringing it back every now and then because I miss it so much. Heard in well over 100 countries worldwide. Welcome to Defenders of the Bank. You know my voice. It's the Scarf, J.R. Liebert, and it's U.S. Open Cup season, so nothing warms my silver bells and cockle shells quite as much as the U.S. Open Cup does, except one thing, my friends, podcasting with my partner in pod, one Christian Philly Philemon.
Oh, flattery gets you everywhere, puts a smile on my face ear to ear. I can't say the Open Cup warms my cockles the same way it warms yours, but I do enjoy getting an opportunity to hang out with you and do these recaps. It's always the fun part. It's really the reason why we started this pod. And then along the lines, we've made a lot of some friends, about 1 million of them, the millions
and millions
of Defenders of the Bank listeners. And then it became a party. A big time party. And here we are on Hump Day, about to wreak some havoc as we talk about the Loudoun United game. Loudoun, a team that looks like they would have played Wrexham in the National League based on their logo. Yeah, we'll talk more about that, but it's been nice, man. Nice getting to be here with you on a Wednesday.
Yeah, look, we're going to talk about this in this day in LAFC history, but I have to bring up the attire that one Christian Philly Philemon is currently wearing. No, it is not a bow tie, even though he is the bow-tied broadcaster. Philly, 7 years ago today, and you have to remind me in a moment of their mascot's name in just a moment, but 7 years ago today, Philly, we hosted our first ever international friendly, and boy, oh boy, was it a big one. Bundesliga's own Borussia Dortmund came a-calling to BMO. You've got the shirt. We were both there. I mean, Christian Pulisic, Jadon Sancho. My personal favorites was to see you get all giddy when Andre Schürrle and Mario Götze walked out onto the pitch. I mean, what was it like for you? You're the resident Bundesliga guy on this podcast. What was it like 7 years ago seeing Borussia Dortmund and all of those big names playing on our pitch at what was then Bank of California Stadium?
Just to remind everybody as to why I'm a big fan of the Bundesliga and why I care about the German national team, I mean, it's quite simple. My family immigrated from Eastern Europe, mom's side to New York, dad's side to Munich, Germany. I've been going back and forth to Germany since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. I was in Munich when West Germany beat Argentina in the 1990 World Cup. And then I ended up going to high school in 8th grade, actually, in Frankfurt, Germany. So I spent a lot of my life and a lot of my childhood going back and forth to Germany. So for me, Germany's like a second home. The German national team is, without a doubt, my favorite international team, period. And obviously, y'all know my German ties as far as clubs are concerned. So why it meant such a big deal to me to see Mario Götze and Andreas Schürrle at BMO Stadium 7 years ago on the date. It's Michael Ballack too. Yeah, I mean, we could go, dude. We could go back to the Beckenbauer days. We could talk about '54. I actually had a great, I guess he would be a great uncle who featured in the 1954 World Cup for Germany, the very first one they won. He was a defender by the name of Josef Posipal. If you look him up, he started the final game in that tournament. He defected from Romania. You can read all about him later. But long story short, that 2014 World Cup against Argentina, a game that was just down to the wire. In extra time, Andreas Schürrle, one of the most beautiful passes to one Mario Götze. The touch off his chest, right off of his foot, past the keeper, propelling Germany to their 4th World Cup. I cried that day, absolutely cried that day. So to get the opportunity to see both of those players, point blank range, because I mean, it was general admission. It was pretty darn cool. And what really warmed my heart even more as I'm looking up there, Scarf, you gifted me 2 little photos of Mario Götze and Andreas Schürrle. I mean, they're wearing Dortmund gear, so we won't hold that against them, but they're signed. It's arguably the most prized possessions I have here in Philly Monster Studios.
Philly, what's the name of the mascot? Remind me again. The bee. Emma. So I went to the pre-event that they had the night before the match where they brought out a bunch of players. You got to walk in a line. They all had already pre-signed all these cards and everything. That was kind of cool. But I knew the two that I had to get for Philly was one Andre Schürrle and Mario Götze. It was, I mean, look, it was really cool as a newbie to international soccer that I certainly am. Look, I've been following the Azzurri for as long as I can remember, but that's about it. This was the biggest thing that I had experienced, other than seeing, Brazil, Mexico in the Rose Bowl a couple of years prior. This was so cool to be able to see Borussia Dortmund, obviously one of the, I would say, top 20, 25 clubs in the world, especially at the time, with Christian Pulisic and Jadon Sancho and all those names that we had already mentioned. It was just so cool to have them in our city and to be playing in our stadium against our boys. It was a weird game, right? It was 0-0 up until sort of the end. Aaron Kovar scoring a goal in the 77th minute, put us up 1-0. He subbed on for Carlos Vela. Vela played the first 26 minutes and was like, thank you, I did my job. I made my appearance. Maximilian Philippe scoring in the 87th minute for Borussia Dortmund to tie it. Names like Charlie Lyon, Shaft Brewer Jr., Nico Chornomaj, James Murphy, who we actually played against in Monterey Bay FC last year. James Murphy still doing it. I'm telling you guys, go back and look at the rosters for that match, and it is a veritable who's who of LAFC greats that played in the second half of that one.
Yeah, and for those watching the pod, I got the shirt from that game. I know there's plenty of Dortmund supporters within the LAFC world that would love to get a piece of that T-shirt, but I'm glad I copped it. I didn't really enjoy the price I paid for it, but we got a scarf that was like, kind of like a 50-50. It was pretty dope. It had LAFC on one half, Borussia Dortmund on the other. Then it had the Westfalenstadion, otherwise known as Signal Iduna Park, on one end and Bank of California on the other end. I mean, I hope that we get that kind of opportunity with Bayern Munich with this partnership that's going on. So, I mean, it was really, really cool. And looking at the notes, I just so happened to come across this while I was doing something rare for me on a Wednesday, which is laundry. So when I realized it was 7 years to date, I had to rock the T-shirt. I haven't really worn it since.
Yeah, and by the way, we are following the only U.S. Open Cup match that is still going on right now. It's in stoppage time in the second half. Phoenix Rising took the lead by Remy Cabral. Yes, that is Kevin Cabral's brother. Remy Cabral scoring a PK, but Alex Roldan and a player who I've never heard of named Kalani Kosarienzi just scored for Seattle Sounders. So, man, this is fun. I don't know, man. U.S. Open Cup is my favorite time of year. Let's get into what we normally do. Our banter has been fun, but look, the match that we're going to recap, it's probably going to be one of our quicker recaps. The first half was kind of bleh. There's just a lot going on in the U.S. Open Cup world, but not a lot going on in the first half of that match. That's for sure. Basic Blurry, stick around. We will tell you in just a minute, because we are about to start some of the favorite segments that we do here on Defenders of the Bank. This day in LAFC history, not only is today, November 22nd, 2018, the anniversary, or 2024, the 7-year anniversary of the game against Borussia Dortmund. But yesterday, when the game was actually played, kind of a cool moment in LAFC history as well. May 21st, 2018, the night before we played Borussia Dortmund, 5 players were named to provisional World Cup rosters. They all would not eventually go, but 5 players were named to provisional World Cup rosters. Our first time through the World Cup cycle as black and gold supporters. Those 5 players named to provisional World Cup rosters were Belgium's Laurent Simon, Iran's Steven Beitashour, Egypt's Omar Gaber, Mexico's Carlos Vela, and Costa Rica's Marco Ureña. Talk about going into the Wayback Machine for some of those names. Not all of them would play. In fact, not many of them would play. Laurent Simon, of course, went to the World Cup as our defensive leader on the back line, came back a very, very different player. He was the final cut right before the first match as Vincent Kompany wound up being healthy, and he was just never the same after that. That is this day in LAFC history. Philly's shaking his head.
Vincent Kompany. Vincent Kompany. Have you heard the news potentially about Vincent Company?
Why do you think I brought it up? You and I talked about it yesterday at the match.
I can't believe that he's even in the dialogue to be Bayern Munich's potential next head coach. I would rather have Pochettino, who's parting ways with Chelsea, as Bayern's next coach. Anyways, I could go off on a tangent on this, but Vincent Kompany is the next coach of Bayern. Oh, not a fan of that.
I think, by the way, in the chat, I think Isis just called you Fiji, but she corrected herself. I may call you
I've
Fiji
been
for
there
at least one or two times. Look,
let's
get
go
real
to
quick.
Fiji. I spent some time on the island of Tokoriki. It's smaller than the block Scarf lives on. It was pretty darn cool. Fiji was dope. I liked Fiji.
I don't know. 156th Street in Lawndale is kind of a big block, so I don't know. Could be.
No, that's what I'm saying. The island of Tokoriki was tiny. So Fiji's made up of like 100 or so islands. I was in the Mamanuca chain for that time period, which means nothing to most of y'all. But the cool part about it is the movie Castaway that featured Tom Hanks. I was within that chain, so actually I got to go walk on that island.
I like it. Look, let's get into our news and notes. We've just finished this day in LC history, and people are talking about it in the chat. So let's start our news and notes by burying the lead completely. If you only get your LAFC news and recaps, by the way, from us, and you didn't know that LAFC won the game 3-0, sorry, we're burying that lead here by talking about our next U.S. Open Cup match. It was just announced a couple of hours ago. LAFC hosting the quarterfinal match. Just 8 teams left in the U.S. Open Cup. The match will take place, what we believe is on July 10th. And we got that news according to the team that we're playing. And let's go. New Mexico United, Philly. Some of my favorite kits in the NWSL, in the USL. Sponsored by, is it Neon Wolf, right? Is that Neon Wolf, I think, is their sponsor? They have such a cool home kit. I love their jerseys. They got an owner that talks all kinds of smack. They're a solid club. They're 6-2-1 through 9 USL championship matches so far. They're second in the West. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun having New Mexico United come to BMO Stadium. Look, it's July 10th. We've got a ways to go before we start talking about Open Cup again. But Philly, can we tell the millions?
And millions
that we are going to do a full getting to know you episode, since there's only 8 clubs left, very few USL championship sides left. Let's do a full getting to know you episode coming up on New Mexico United. What do you think?
I like this, mainly because like we've advanced a little further within the Open Cup, and New Mexico United's got a great thing going. They were founded the same year we were. I mean, it played their inaugural season, I should say, 2018, and ever since then they've done a lot of great things. You and I actually have gone to see them play live against Los Gros down in Carson. I love everything they're doing. They've got a pretty cool supporter culture there. So yeah, I'm all about doing a getting to know New Mexico pod. That would have been a trip, by the way, if we were on the road, one that I wouldn't mind taking. I've never, ever been to New Mexico, and I've never really had a reason to go to New Mexico. But following LAFC, that would have been something. But alas, we're going to welcome them, and then we're going to send them packing, booting them out of BMO Stadium, all black and blue to go along with their black and yellow jerseys. It'll be fun.
Listen, all I can think of when I think of New Mexico is Christian Bale singing. No, Christian Bale singing Santa Fe. Are you there? Come on. Anybody see the Newsies out there? Am I the only one that's seen Newsies? Early Christian Bale, Santa Fe, Bill Pullman.
Like pre-puberty Christian Bale.
Yeah, absolutely. Before he was the president in Independence Day, he was the guy.
Or the American Psycho.
Yeah, so I just think of that song Santa Fe. I've never been to New Mexico myself either. I can't wait. Philly, we just got to go out there for a New Mexico United match. Maybe we'll go when they're playing like Phoenix Rising or someone fun. I don't know. We'll have to pick a time. That would be a fun road trip. I know you love driving. Be perfect.
No, we're flying. None of this driving BS. No way.
All right, a little bit of history, Philly. I know the German national team is your pride and joy. However, Timothy Tillman joining his brother Malik on the squad in the U.S. men's national team. A little bit of German flavor now, Philly, on the U.S. men's national team. How cool would it be? Timothy Tillman getting the call to join the U.S. men's national team camp next month in preparation for their friendlies against Colombia and Brazil as they tune up for Copa America. Of course, he and Malik Tillman, Malik a little bit younger, the much more heralded prospect between the two. But if the two play on the same field together, Philly, it'll be the first time it's happened. Two brothers playing together. 1988 was the last time it happened on Team USA. You'd think I would have done the research and found out who they were, but I didn't. I apologize.
Ken and Steve Snow, Scarf.
Who?
Ken and Steve Snow were the last set of brothers that played on Team USA back in 1988.
I remember Philadelphia Flyers goalie Garth Snow. I remember wrestler Al Snow.
The Islanders, so we could go down that rabbit hole if you'd like to. I mean, I'm all about going down
wrestler Al Snow. Al Snow.
Yeah, Ken and Steve Snow, 1988. Prior to that, Angelo and Paul DiBernardo. The list kind of goes on. There aren't that many that have done so. Obviously, the Tillman brothers could be that next batch. And then the only other brothers that could have that possibility is Paxton and Brendan, the Aronson boys. So we got some cool stuff. Sibling-wise.
Quinn and Caven Sullivan might have something to say about that, too. That 14-year-old Caven Sullivan, that kid is not 14 years old. Come on. No, we need some radiocarbon dating on that kid or something to figure out how old he actually is. That's unbelievable. So, yeah, I think it'd be really cool. We asked about we didn't ask that. I think it was who asked the question? Was it Justin? I think Justin asked the question.
Yeah, it was Justin Ruderman in a press conference last night.
Yeah, it was pretty cool asking Timmy about the last time he played with his brother. He said they were like maybe 10 years old or so, which is kind of cool that they could play on the same pitch together in the same match. June 8th, U.S. men's national team takes on Colombia. June 12th, U.S. men's national team takes on Brazil, in case you want to watch. And, oh, by the way, Philly, the U.S. men have not beaten Colombia in 7 straight matches. It's the second longest streak ever for the U.S. men's national team. The first longest streak ever, of course, is Brazil. We haven't beaten them in like 13 straight matches. So we get to play them both back to back. That'll be fun. 2 teams that we haven't beaten in a long time. Philly short-term contracts for one Tommy Musto and David Ochoa. We will definitely talk about Tommy Musto a little bit later in the podcast. But Musto and Ochoa both signed short-term contracts ahead of that match against Loudoun United. Musto has previously signed 2 short-term contracts this season. One for the opener against Seattle Sounders and one before the SKC match on March 9th. And David Ochoa signed his only other short-term deal of the season before Las Vegas Lights and our victory against them in the Open Cup. More on Tommy Musto later. Philly, in a surprise to nobody, Denis Bouanga, player of match day 14.
Yeah, no surprise there. I mean, why are we even bringing it up? This is as obvious as anything out there. Yeah, I mean, well deserved. I mean, he along that makes him tied with Diego Rossi, I think.
Yeah.
And then I think obviously Carlos Vela's got plenty of those awards as well. So I think Carlos is, I forget, but tied with how many does he have with Rossi? 3? Him and Rossi have 3 together. And then I forget how many Carlos has.
You are correct. Diego Rossi and Denis Bouanga with 3. Carlos Vela has 3 times 3. That would be a perfect square of 9. 9 player of the match days. Angel City Minute, we'd like to check in on, see how Angel City is doing. Someone's got to check in and see how Sarah Gordon is doing. She got hurt in the match, and Angel City fell to the Washington Spirit 4-2 in their match on May 18th. Trinity Rodman with a brace against Angel City. They lost Sarah Gordon to injury early in the first half. The match did mark the debut of Giselle Thompson, and we talk about Timothy and Malik Tillman playing together. Well, how about Giselle and Alyssa Thompson becoming the first set of sisters to start an NWSL match for the same club? Pretty cool that we have Alyssa and Giselle both playing at Harvard Westlake for their high school careers. Through 9 matches, ACFC 3 wins, 5 losses, and a draw. They sit 9th, just 1 point back of a playoff spot, 10 points. And their next match, Philly, is tomorrow, and it's a big one. San Diego Wave, Alex Morgan, the rivalry. Both teams, they've played each other 8 times. They're 3-3-2. So the rivalry is all square after 8, 7 p.m., BMO Stadium tomorrow. ACFC and San Diego Wave. Don't forget, check out the Angel City Chicks for all your ACFC news on any of the platforms you get social media. And Philly, I guess we we made fun of the town, and so they wound up beating LAFC 2 in what was a thriller of a match, 0-0 after 90 minutes, 6-5 on PKs. The town beats LAFC 2, and we lost. So there you go.
Soccer USA, cattle ranching, and where Billy the Kid once roamed freely and is supposedly buried, having been murdered by one Sheriff Pat Garrett, a former regulator, by the way, that ran with Billy the Kid during his time when they were working for one of the biggest cattle ranchers in New Mexico, and that of John Tunstall, the Lincoln County Wars. Pat Garrett went behind Billy the Kid's back, got himself deputized, and then blasted his old friend, supposedly.
Look, nobody cares about all that. It's the second question that they want to really know about. What would a New Mexico-themed Hello Kitty look like? I can't believe I'm bringing up Hello Kitty on the podcast, by the way.
I've been kind of avoiding bringing her out there, by the way. So she would look like this, only yellow.
In a yellow jersey of some sort, maybe neon bright. I don't know. All right. Look, that's the end of our news and notes, folks. We got a lot to talk about in terms of news and notes. LAFC taking on Loudoun United. U.S. Open Cup round of 16. Scarf's pride and joy. Love the U.S. Open Cup. I really do. Only 6 clubs out of the 16 teams remaining in this round from Major League Soccer. I love the Galaxy supporters on Twitter already. Did you see the one that they came up with now? It's hilarious. Because Galaxy chose not to play or because they weren't drawn to play or whatever, they said, they just released the final trophy schematics for the U.S. Open Cup winner. Of course, it's got Mickey Mouse on the middle of it and all this other stuff. Man, it must be hard to whine about something that you're not even playing in. We're so sorry. All of you Carson fans out there, you can't win the Open Cup this year. And please don't say you don't care about the Open Cup, because in your stadium, there's a thing up there about the times that you've won the Open Cup. So look, You care about it. It's a trophy. You have them on display somewhere. I'm sorry. When we do win it this year, God, I hope we do win it this year. I just can't wait, Philly, to hear what the Carson fans are going to say about,
man. Look, they're going to talk until we surpass them in terms of titles. And then you know what? They're going to continue to talk, still saying, well, we were here first. If it wasn't for us, if it wasn't for Philip Anschutz, this league wouldn't be here. Y'all owe the Galaxy a debt of gratitude. We're never going to hear the end of it. They're going to keep talking, and that's fine. I mean, they can talk and worry about all the crap we do. We'll just go out there and continue to break hearts and set trends.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I'm with you. I get it. I believe, by the way, people are asking in the chat real quick about U.S. Open Cup. I believe because of the way they do travel and everything else, we would play the winner of Sacramento Republic. And did the game go final? Let's see. This is good. The game went final. It is Seattle Sounders and Sacramento Republic playing each other in that next match. Phoenix Rising, even though they were up 1-0, could not hold on. So those are your
Atlanta United playing Indy 11.
Yeah, Atlanta United playing Indy 11, Sporting KC playing FC Dallas. We'll get to all that in just a little bit. But look, Loudoun United, we were talking about them. We got distracted. Look, squirrel. We got distracted. Loudoun United is the only USL championship club that is still affiliated with an MLS club. It's a long story about their team's lease. Look, I talked about it on One More Sleep. If you really want to go into it, check out the One More Sleep that I did. It talks about why they're the only USL championship club still affiliated with an MLS team. It's DC United. It's still their feeder club. But look, and by the way, Basic Blurry, you're talking about the Alejandro Vela quote. Alejandro Vela said this about Carlos Vela. Well, he's kind of a hermit. He may retire. He may surprise us and play. You know what that's equivalent to him saying? Carlos Vela is my brother, and you all know what he's like. So I don't know. He might be coming back. He might not. No kidding. Thank you, Alejandro. You gave us nothing. All these rumors. Just relax, everybody. Relax.
Yeah. Alejandro Vela, the only time it was his brother makes him pretty popular. And yeah, he really said nothing in any of that. Although if you do look at these images that have recently surfaced of Carlos Vela, just to Basic Blurry's point, he does look like he's enjoying life. He by no means is going to be ready to suit up should he decide to put pen and paper, not like a Kai Kamara who signs and then boom is on the plane the next day.
Yeah,
So
look, it's tough, right? We know Carlos, even when he was signed to our club, he would enjoy the offseason a little bit. And he knew he had a season to play after a couple of months off. So I think, look, we've seen him really enjoying life. I still believe he's coming. This is personally Scarf here. I have no intelligence.
that's true. Zero. Zip, zilch,
Hey,
nada.
hey,
And the fact that you're molder of young minds scares the hell out of me.
hey. I have no outside intelligence telling me things other than my own brain right here.
No
That was
intelligence.
hurtful. That was hurtful. You. All I'm thinking is Carlos Vela has seen his legs over the last bunch of years kind of betray him towards the end of the year. I still think he's going to re-sign after July 1st. I think he's not going to be ready to go until magically after Leagues Cup, after we play all those Liga MX teams. Now you're looking at mid-August, late August. And who else is walking through the door mid to late August after Euros and everything else? That would be one Olivier Giroud. And who knows? Maybe Hugo calls up his old buddy Antoine. Carlos calls. They get on one of those three-way calls, and they're like, hey, let's all meet at BMO Stadium late August. Let's all hang out and play the rest of the season. Look, I know visions of sugar plums are dancing in my head. I couldn't think of some sort of French fruit.
Sugar plums. They're more like cantaloupes. Carlos Vela's put on a bit of weight. Look, I love Carlos.
So am I.
Done. Scar, but at the end of the day, the fact that he's just stringing all this along is kind of annoying. At some point, like, bro, are you a professional or are you not? Do you want to play or do you not? This is what like a high school kid would struggle with when it comes to choosing a prom date. Are you flipping kidding me? Either say you're in or say you're out. You go halfway through a season, leaving us with a little bit of hope. It's kind of preposterous at the end of the day. I love the man. I'll forever love the man. But this is just pure unprofessional, if you ask me.
I think he's being a diva athlete. We see plenty of those in football. We see plenty of those everywhere else. I love what Soccer USA say. What I want to do, if you really want to make Carlos Vela work for it, can you imagine this? Getting a tune-up at the Titan Stadium, campus of Cal State Fullerton. We've seen Eddie Segura. We've seen Maxime Crepeau. We've seen Mamadou Fall. We've seen plenty of first-teamers go down there to get their legs right. Carlos Vela at Cal State Fullerton. Print the stickers and banners. Let's make it happen.
Carlos Vela's not ready to play for Cal State Fullerton's men's soccer team at this point. What Carlos Vela's ready to do is to go on Love Undercover and join his buddy Marco Fabian to do things that way. That's what Carlos Vela is ready. I love the man, but it's going to be a shell of himself when he comes through. If he walks on this roster, I will cheer him. I will clap. But this is just annoying at this point.
I'm still in. I still want to give him his retirement party. Let's let him ride off into the sunset. Look,
he already did.
Gareth Bale did absolutely nothing for us until he came in and made one play, and now we carry him on our shoulders through the golf courses of Los Angeles if we could. I think we'll wind up doing the same thing on the beaches of Cancun. We'll carry Carlos off after we win another title. I think it'll be great. But you know what? That's neither here nor there. Loudoun United, remember them? We were talking about Loudoun United a minute ago, I promise. Look, they went all the way across country from beautiful Leesburg, Virginia to Great Park down in Irvine, where they beat Orange County Soccer Club 2-1 to get to play LAFC at BMO Stadium. So look, they made it the farthest they've ever made it in US Open Cup. They've got a head coach who's been there basically since they started in 2019. They're not very good or very bad this year. They're fair to middling, but none of that matters. They lost 3-0. Let's get into the lineups, Philly, and let's get this recap going. Anything you'd like to say about Loudoun United before we start, sir?
Their crest reminds me of a National League
and their jerseys, the Don Quixote windmill that they had going on there, man, that was a lot on those kids.
There was that. I mean, it could have been, I don't know. To me, when I saw that, I just saw somebody who just, what did I say the other day? Something along the lines of, it looks like an Ajax jersey, but the guy who created it was schizophrenic when he hit send to the print machine.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of their jersey. Who I was a big fan of, if I'm being honest, head coach Ryan Martin, by the way, head man since 2019. I think I just said that. But I was a big fan of Dane Jockman. They do something
Yes.
kind of cool at Loudoun United where they let Dane Jockman play all the U.S. Open Cup games. And their other keeper, this French guy from Cannes, that LAFC's guy Michael wrote up about that I knew wasn't going to play, but he was like, it's okay. They'll be playing against a guy from France. No, they won't. Because he started all 11 USL championship matches, or started all, 9 USL championship matches they played this season. And Dane Jockman has started all the Open Cup matches, not just this year, but last year in their first foray into the Open Cup as well. So they've got kind of like a US Open Cup specialist goalie. I don't know if that's something you want to be, but there he is. On the back line, they played a 5-3-2. And boy, did it turn into like an 8-0-2 for quite a while as well throughout much of this match. The 5 on the back line, Robert Dambra, Makai Akimboni, who I was really looking forward to seeing. He's 17 years old. We saw him play first as a 15-year-old out in Palm Springs last preseason, not this preseason, but last. Jacob Erlinson, Keegan Hughes, and Keegan Tingy on the back line. It was Khalil El-Medkar, Tommy McCabe, and Florian Valot, formerly of the New York Red Bull, or as Philly likes to call them,
the New Jersey energy drinks.
There you go. I gotta make sure Philly's awake over there every now and then. Forward Wesley Leggett and forward Zach Ryan, their two best goal scorers on the season, round out the starting 11. They did have several players come in off of the bench, but to be honest, they didn't do anything. So Philly, would LAFC play this as it was a serious game, or would we come out with the kids?
It's nice to know. We'll address it in the towards the end when Ante Razov mentioned it. It's nice to see LAFC taking this seriously. We did have a jam-packed schedule last season in which Open Cup was really the last thing on anybody's minds. And, we leveraged everything we can to win CONCACAF, and we obviously all know how that went along. But with this starting lineup, there was some hope there that LAFC was going to take this game seriously and this tournament seriously. Starting between the pipes, the second straight U.S. Open Cup start is that of our backup keeper, Abraham Romero. And boy, did he have a splendid evening. In the back line, Sergi Palencia, Maxime Chanot, Eddie Segura, Omar Campos getting more minutes. Omar Campos coming around. I'll say that. He's coming around. Timothy Tillman, Ilie Sanchez, Matty Bogusz in the midfield. And up top, Kike Oliveira, who's just been stellar. Tomas Angel making his first start on LAFC. He's played a little while at LAFC 2, scoring at LAFC 2. More on that later. And the dime dishing dynamo himself, Denis Bouanga, makes up the rest of the front line. Your bench consists of Jesus David Murillo, Edward Atuesta, who would come into the game much sooner than we would have liked, Nathan Ordaz, David Ochoa, Aaron Long, Tommy Musto, not to be mistaken for the American record producer, and the German Louis Müller.
Yeah, and you know what? Congrats to Musto getting into the 18. We'll definitely talk about him in a minute. Look, it was a different environment at BMO, right, Philly? Only tickets that were sold were in the north end and on the east side of the east side of the stadium. East side of the stadium, the Figueroa Club side. Both sections, by the way, wound up filling out rather nicely. It was a little sparse to start the match, but look, it was also Mookie Betts' bobblehead night over at Dodger Stadium. So it took the crowd a little bit to get there. But I have to say, second half, once they got going, Philly, the crowd was really up and going the whole time. And the 32-52, it looked sparse to start the match. And we're talking 500 people, if that. But I don't know if they sent the bat signal up or whatever it was. But by the end of the first half, that north end was, look, it wasn't full, but it was pretty damn full for a Tuesday match at BMO against Loudoun United in the Open Cup. And they were definitely as loud as they possibly could have been with the numbers that they had. I was really pleased to see how the crowd rounded out. I want to know how it looked on TV, but I think in the second half especially, it was a good crowd out there, Philly.
Yeah, it was a good crowd. A little over 10,000 was the number. The other section that featured the other premium clubs in that of Sunset, Founders, and Field, that was closed off. South End was closed off, but every Open Cup game that we've had, other than that Galaxy game last season, that's the way it has been.
Yeah.
$20 tickets, $15 for supporters. So while they didn't open up every section, it certainly filled in the sections that were open, and it was a good crowd, a very relaxed, good crowd. Had a capo within that Figueroa section trying to get people up and running, but I mean, it was kind of he got the kids excited, not the rest of the adults. The rest of the adults were weary from having spent an hour 45, an hour, 2 hour, whatever in traffic. But I like the fact that LAFC got started at 7:30 because it gave people a little bit more time to get to the bank because, well, rush hour in this town is horrendous. And yeah, for the Open Cup game that it was a decent crowd, all things considered.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to give a quick shout out to our good buddy Sean Park, the honorary Falconer. That was really cool to see Sean get the opportunity to do that. Congratulations to Sean. And look, I was told, Philly, right when we went live, somebody said that was the FIFA anthem that they played as they walked out. It definitely sounded like it was the beginning to the opening of the Main Street Electrical Parade at Disneyland or something equally ridiculous. That FIFA anthem, if that's what it is, and I'm gonna go download it on the old iTunes after this if I can. We'll see, but it was pretty terrible what they were walking out to. Look, the match kicks off, and the first great play of the match. Look, if you had your money on Team Security Paul making the first memorable play of the match, then you won, because it was a beautiful throw in by Paul in the 3rd minute. And it actually caught the players off guard as the second ball came out on the pitch. Paul was ready to go. He got that game moving. Soccer USA says that was a 94 World Cup theme. There's no way. Interesting. I don't know. All right. Philly, fastest goal in U.S. Open Cup history, 2019, Carlos Vela, 8th minute. And let's add a new name to that list. What do you say?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Yeah, Timothy Tillman. Although we really thought it was going to be an own goal, just the way it kind of looked. I mean, there's a little bit of the ping pong action, a little bit of the pinball within the box. LAFC got off to a really nice start, a couple of touches here and there, and then ball gets into Timothy Tillman, and he took a shot. He would have been wide open. He would have made the goal anyway, but it did deflect off of one of Loudoun's players. Either way, it still finds the back of the net, and it did not take long for LAFC to thread the netting.
Yeah, look, it's a shot on target and a goal if it would have been on target and gone in the back of the net in the first place. And actually, we got lucky. I watched the replay a couple of times. Tomas Angel completely whiffs on the ball. Maybe it was a dummy run. Maybe he was letting it go all the way through, but I think he totally whiffed on the ball. And
which would put him at a grand total of 16 touches in the game had he touched it.
But how do you play 95 some odd minutes and get 15 touches? Anyways, look, Timothy Tillman with yet another goal for LAFC. A nice little bit of pinball, like you said. It was an Ilie who one-touched the ball over to Kike on the right, and Kike Oliveira has become an excellent passer sometimes, and this was one of those times. It was a little worm burner of a pass across the box, and again, Angel kind of missed. Luckily, Timothy Tillman was there. It deflected off a defender, 1-0. And that is exactly what I said needed to happen on One More Sleep. You get a goal early. You take their supporters out of it. Wait, supporters.
I didn't even see a supporter.
Genuinely, look, and I'm not trying to make fun of Loudoun United. We are being serious when Philly and I say this. Every other match that has been at BMO against another club that's not like an inter-squad friendly has had at least one supporter for the other team. I did not. And if anybody out there saw a Loudoun United supporter, please take a picture of that, or please send us a picture of that person. Definitely did not see anybody from Leesburg, Virginia. Didn't see anybody in a DC United jersey. I didn't see like Matai Akamboni's mom in case he needed to get anywhere because he's only 17. I don't know. I didn't see anybody, Philly. There was nobody. I was shocked at that. Absolutely shocked. Look, Carlos Vela and Timothy Tillman both now tied with the Ruben Rio says there were 10 supporters. Where were they, Ruben? I didn't see them.
Yeah.
We didn't see it. Either way, Loudoun United, though, sticking around, right, Philly? A good chance in the 15th minute. Unfortunately, one of their better players, one of my players to watch, Wesley Leggett, got a yellow card to the 18th. And then a moment, Philly, that kind of made us all hold our breath. And I actually I had to go pee when this happened. So you're up because I didn't see Ilie get hurt in the 23rd minute. Would you mind taking us through the injury? Because I had to pee.
Yeah, I mean, I was at that point. You tasked me with trying to like keep the whole row. You were gone, Panda and Nina were gone, and I think I saw somebody in the chat saying you couldn't sit with us. Who was that? Well, regardless, we apologize. There was only the one seat. Yeah, Ilie Sanchez went down. I didn't even see anything how that happened either, because there was that yellow card that caught my eye. But then all of a sudden, the trainers are on the pitch tending to Ilie. He got up on his own accord and then he walked out. But you saw somebody warming up in the distance, and that person warming up in the distance would turn out to be Edward Atuesta. So Ilie came off, and as Ante Razov mentioned in the post game, that it was just done precautionary. Ilie Sanchez is obviously getting up there in terms of age. We'll see exactly what his situation is going to be in the starting lineup when Olivier Giroud starts up top. I'm not entirely sure that Ilie is going to be getting as much playing time as he has in the past. And quite honestly, just having him as a depth piece come off the bench just goes to show you how much more solid we will be in our 18. Even going back to his final season playing it with Peter Vermees at Sporting Kansas City, the wheels were falling off of him as Ilie was being used in every single scenario possible, from midfield to playing defender to whatever you have. Was kind of a liability, I thought, when he signed on to LAFC, but he put on some good time, and obviously he's contributed significantly. But thankfully, long story, very long, came out as precautionary. He should be fine. We'll know more on that during the press conferences and the media days within the next couple of days.
Yeah, I think it was Josh that asked about it in the press conference. Ante hadn't heard anything about it other than it looked like a little groin or a leg issue. He did. I remember seeing the one replay. He kind of lunged after a ball. And look, I think going forward, you hit the nail on the head, Philly. I think that as long as Kai Kamara is healthy, or maybe now Tomas Angel, or maybe Luis Muller, then we start one of them at the 9, move Matty Bogusz back to the midfield, and have our midfield be Matty, Edward Atuesta, and Timothy Tillman. Look, if I did a kung fu kick that was unexpected, Soccer USA, I'm pulling a groin and a hamstring at the same time myself. I'm not a professional athlete, so I would hope that that Ilie would be a little better, but that's all right. I think, look, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Ilie does not play against Atlanta United when we travel there for our next match on Saturday. Tomas almost scoring. Tomas Angel almost scoring in the 31st minute. It was a nice through pass from Kike Oliveira. It was just wide, just to the right post, or as he's looking at the goal, to the right post there, what would have been the near post for him. Look, I thought I got to give Panda some credit in the 34th minute. Loudoun had a set piece, and then we had a beautiful counter, and it was Kike Oliveira running it, and she said, oh, that looked like the old Kike rather than the new Kike Oliveira running it, because all he did was I think he took the shot and it went somewhere deep into the night, not even close to anything on target. That has not been the Kike Oliveira that we have seen recently. It was the Kike Oliveira that we saw maybe the last couple of matches. Another good save by Jackman in the 36th minute. And you mentioned it, Philly, 37th minute, they had this beautiful cross into the box that their guy just couldn't get to. We were still allowing Loudoun United to hang around, and that could be a dangerous thing. You and I talk about it all the time, Philly, when it comes to the NCAA tournament, things like that. It's what LMU did to UC Riverside by allowing them to hang on and hang around. And that one match, the one game that you called, where they came back and won 12-10 after LMU was up 9-1. Either way, you can't let inferior teams hang around is what I'm trying to say.
No, and we're really lucky that there was nobody there to connect on that cross. And they had a couple of scenarios within the first and the second half where they did have some nice passing within the 18, but there was nobody there on the other end. Quite honestly, going into the locker room at halftime, we were quite fortunate to be up by only a score of 1-0. It was not the first half that I would have anticipated, especially when the score when LAFC scored within the 8th minute. So you're right. You leave an inferior team in the game. They, God forbid, tie it. Now you're looking at a completely different set of circumstances coming out of the locker room. By no means did I think Loudoun United were there at all in the game, but I just did think that LAFC had some lapses in defensive judgment, and we got lucky that there was nobody there, no stellar, no quality forwards in there to be the recipient of some of these nice passes that came into the box. And there were a couple. By no means were they poor within the box, but Loudoun United very much in this game. Going into the locker room, you had 3 minutes worth of stoppage time, but there's really nothing at that point. And then we go in the halftime, up 1-0 with only 2 shots on goal against a team as bad as Loudoun United. Not the best 45 minutes out of LAFC. There was a sense of urgency there. They passed the ball much better than they did against the Las Vegas Lights, but the defense was still rather suspect within the first 45.
Yeah, and look, Abraham Romero trying to pull a Tyler Miller there right at the end of stoppage time. He came way out, and I was a little concerned about that. I've still got PTSD from Tyler doing some dumb stuff over the first couple of years. But look, lackluster last 25 minutes of the match for sure. But like we said at the open, Loudoun was dropping 8 guys back every time we would cross midfield, not getting into the attacking third. Crossing midfield, Loudoun would drop 8 back at times, and it was rough to watch. It was a low block for sure, and going down and still keeping that low block 1-0 and still refusing to send guys forward really speaks to your point, Philly, about how they were able to get off some good chances in the first half without going away from running that low block that they ran over and over and over. LAFC vet, I completely disagree. But either way, they start out, Philly, on the front foot. Loudoun United with another good chance the first minute. And then Kike Oliveira again running the break like old Kike, not like new Kike. He was onside with a beautiful pass, but he chose to take the strike from distance rather than dribbling in on target. Not super happy about that. And Philly, an incredible save by Jacquemin in the 50th minute on Denis Bawanga. It was a diving one-handed glove save up over the bar. That left us with a corner, which, by the way, Omar Campos took that corner kick. Not something that we were expecting. A beautiful save by Jacquemin in the 50th minute. But then we had, look, I loved how Loudoun United just never stopped. And we almost gave one away in the 52nd minute. Philly, an awful giveaway in the middle of the park. And Abraham Romero has to make an incredible save. And on the counter, Denis Bawanga was off and running. And what I love, Philly, about what Denis Bawanga did is that he went to the middle of the park. He ran the middle channel. He's not playing like a winger when he has the ball in front of him. He is playing like a 9 when he seeks that ball and gets on the break. An absolutely beautiful job by Denis Bawanga. He saw Kike run the last 2 breaks, and he was like, hold on, take a deep breath. I got it for you, Kike. Drops it off to Kike, right-hand side, blasted past the keeper. LAFC up 2-0. It could have been 1-1 if not for Abraham Romero making that save. Now we're up 2-0, Philly. And Kike Oliveira in rarefied air, 3 goals in the U.S. Open Cup, tying him for second in LAFC history with Carlos Vela and Chicho Arango with 3. Diego Rossi with 6 goals. I miss Diego Rossi. 6 goals, and we're up 2-0.
I mean, what more do I have to say? You pretty much said everything there. 3 goals in 2 games. Kike Oliveira opened up the scoring floodlights, and boom, he's off to the races. But there is no Kike Oliveira scoring these goals without the past perfection of Denis Bawanga. No doubt he's becoming a dime-dishing dynamo within his own right. There are times where, I mean, I love his one-on-one ability, but then sometimes, like when he loads up, pulls the trigger, he's just badly off the mark because he wants to shoot it so aggressively. But I was very taken back by his response to one of the questions we asked him in the press conference, not last game, the game before that, where he said he's just as excited when he dishes a dime that leads to a goal as he is scoring the goals. And he's starting to rack up on these assists. And the chemistry between him and Kike looks pretty darn good. The chemistry between him and another player that would grace the scoring sheet for the first time also looked pretty good. More on that in just a moment. But if Denis Bawanga has this capability and does this with Olivier Giroud in a couple of months' time, there's going to be no stopping us after July. This is going to be an even scarier team. To think that we got off to our worst start in franchise history, we were relying on Denis. He kind of changed his game a little bit. Now he's starting to operate more as a facilitator than a goal scorer. There's no surprise as to why we're starting to win, because he's sharing the ball. He's passing it around. He's making other players shine. And Kike Oliveira is looking really darn good.
Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to a couple of people. Greg Kolb in the chat from Buffalo, New York. My family's from Utica. Philly, Buffalo's located where again? Go ahead.
The joke, because I am from New York City, the boroughs, most of my adult life in Manhattan. Anything north of the Bronx, we jokingly considered as Canada.
Just wanted you to say that out loud to Greg while he's here in the chat.
But you know what? I will not dish that insult to Greg, because the fact that we got an LAFC supporter in Buffalo speaks pretty darn cool. Like, I'd love to know, shoot us a DM as to why you became an LAFC fan out of Buffalo. I think that's a cool story.
He became an LAFC supporter because he's a smart guy. That's for sure. I love Gomez Jr. I love the celebration where they made it look all choppy, or was that just the stream? Our buddy Jonathan Reimer, your play-by-play, your color guy for the Empire Strikers, he had the similar
these days. Scarf.
What? Say it again.
It's known as the analyst these
days. The analyst for the Empire Strikers. He had an equally frustrating relationship with the stream wherever he was streaming from as well. So that was pretty funny that they mentioned it there. It was bad. What certainly wasn't bad is after Omar Campos picks up a yellow card in the 55th minute, we go on the break. Absolutely keep Craig away from folding.
I want to join Greg if he's all about jumping on these tables. Whatever Bill's Mafia does, I'm all about that. Devon, Dudley boys going through a table thing. I'm all for it. Greg, if you're in LA, you want to jump through a table, I'll jump through it with you, bro. Soccer USA, you better bring the chairs.
I would like to apologize, because I can tell you that doing this episode, my ADD is just all kinds of off the chain right now. I'm going all over the place. I'm watching the chat. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. So look, it's a rough one. But Tomas Angel, 61st minute from Denis Bouanga, a really calm ball, by the way. That beautiful little pass to get all. Yeah, it was calm. He just lightly slotted the pass through, and it was Tomas Angel that made the run to get behind the defense and put it 5-hole, to use a hockey term. He went 5-hole on the keeper, on Jackman, back of the net, and Philly. We're up 3-0. So you're thinking, all right, there's the icing on the cake. Good job. No, Tomas Angel was celebrating the likes of which most players do not celebrate a 3-0 goal. And not in a way that shows up the other team, not in a way that shows bad sportsmanship, not in a way that shows immaturity. No, we asked him about this in the presser. In fact, I asked him about the celebration directly, and he mentioned about how he was, to paraphrase it, exercising the demons. He was getting out all that extra bit of emotion. I mean, it was definitely palpable how excited he was, how amped up he was. And then to have everybody, Philly, smother him over there by the sidelines. Imad got a great video. I believe it was Imad, or either a video or a photo of the whole thing happening right in front of him. We all felt so good for Tomas Angel, knowing the road that he'd had. He talked about setbacks, and he talked about how he tried to play through injury. And there's a little bit of pressure on the kid, right? Because his dad is Juan Pablo Angel, an MLS legend who's been one of our head scouts in South America and Central America for a long time now. Kudos to Tomas Angel, his first goal for LAFC.
I mean, look, it wouldn't have mattered if it was 3-0 or 10-0. You're going to celebrate your first goal. One way or another, you're going to celebrate that. I loved it. I want to talk all about the press conference towards the end. And this time I want to remember to do it. There's been pods that I brought stuff up about the press conference and never addressed it. So let's make sure that we don't end this pod without doing so. Between the two of us, the ADD squirrel, we've missed a lot of nuts in this podcast, but it was very endearing. And the kid worked really, really hard. For someone who only finished the game with 15 touches, you'd swear he jumped out of a swimming pool with how sweaty he was. He was working his tail off, maybe creating those dummy runs, doing whatever he could, but I was genuinely happy for him. Yes, very frustrating start for him, but the kid sat back. He was patient. He waited for his opportunity. Then he fed him another brilliant pass. I wouldn't call it a calm ball. I would call it a fiery, accurate pass, if anything. And then that leads to Tomas Angel's first goal. Amazing stuff. The smile on his face was great. And you mentioned the fact that the players all mobbed him goes to show you how well respected he is in the locker room. Clearly, he wasn't a pouty little bee crying about, well, I'm not getting playing time. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. He worked his tail off and he got rewarded for it. So volumes about the kid's character. And I'm still genuinely blown away with how well spoken this young man is. He's such a well spoken human being.
Yeah, and look, the US Open Cup continuing to do wonders for things that have plagued LAFC prior to the Open Cup. Kike Oliveira getting off to a great start in the US Open Cup, and that has led to a much better run of form in Major League Soccer matches. Kai Kamara seeing a ball go into the back of the net for the first time for LAFC in our Las Vegas Lights match. Now you have Tomas Angel doing what Tomas Angel does. And oh, by the way, the things that have always been happening. Denis Bouanga playing well. What? Oh, sorry. That was weird. Denis Bouanga playing well.
Are you hearing things now?
Yeah, no, I've just heard a couple of feedback on it.
Starting to hit you over there at Scarf.
No, there was feedback on your side. Well, other people heard it, trust me. But either way, U.S. Open Cup doing wonderful things for LAFC's run of form for sure. Look, only a couple more notes that I even want to talk about. We're up 3-0. Timothy Tillman making a beautiful play to head the ball away on the back line in the 64th minute. And then our immediate counter leads to Loudoun United with a kick save off the line by somebody other than their keeper. But either way, a nice little back and forth once again. Nathan Ordaz coming on and Jesus Murillo coming on. So Kike and Timothy Tillman both getting a standing ovation as they came off. And then Philly, the last thing that I feel like we should talk about, to be perfectly honest, is in the 79th minute, because Tommy Musto, the kid from Hawaii, making his black and gold debut. He's played well for LAFC too. He's got 3 assists in 9 matches. He comes on for Sergi Palencia, and congrats. Luis Muller also coming on for Denis Bouanga. But anytime we have a player make a first-team debut, that was absolutely incredible. Congrats to Tommy Musto, who's been working hard, signed with LAFC 2 last year, 2023, and now here he plays for the Black and Gold for the first time.
Yeah, pretty darn cool. He was actually the top-ranked recruit in Hawaii. He signed on to the University of Portland, which is a really great Division I program. That's where Steve went collegially before he opted to go to Deutschland. A lot of great players that come out of the University of Portland. He was also the 112th best recruit in the nation as per Top Drawer Soccer. So kid comes in with some accolades, at least on the collegiate level. And I mean, as we know in world football, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but to be that highly recruited and that highly regarded coming out of a small little place like Makawao, I think it's Makawao. I don't know if somebody wants to correct me. Hawaii, good stuff. And so no relation to Robbie Musto, because Robbie Musto is from England and Tommy is from Hawaii.
Doesn't Robbie Musto have an E at the end of his name too? I think he does.
That too, yeah.
Yeah. Look, 3-0. LAFC handles the business. We did exactly what we needed to do against the opponent that was in front of us, an opponent that on paper and on the pitch were quite a bit inferior to LAFC. Did they have their moments? Sure. But you know what? A team of 11 professionals is going to create moments from time to time. That's what Loudoun United did. LAFC kept the clean sheet. LAFC defended well as a team. LAFC did everything that LAFC needed to do to move on. So what does that mean? We talked about it at the Open. Atlanta United hosting Indy 11, Sporting KC hosting FC Dallas, Sacramento Republic hosting Seattle Sounders, and LAFC hosting New Mexico United. Those are the only 8 teams left that can win this trophy. Philly, we're so close. Just what? 3 matches left. 2 matches left. 2 matches left. 3 matches. I'm right. 3 matches left.
We needed 5. It was 5 games. We only played
5
2
games. 3 matches left. We got the quarterfinals coming up July 10th. I think it's July 10th, according to New Mexico United.
Between July 9th and July 10th is when the quarterfinals are going to take place.
Yep. So, look, we did our job. We did our job. It's not survive and advance. This one, Philly, was more thrive and advance. And now we get set to take on New Mexico United.
Yeah. I mean, I generally wish I had the excitement that you did about the U.S. Open Cup. It's fun to sometimes see players from other sides that we would never get to see. I do have an issue with the level of competition, though, that comes from the USL. It's very honest and very blatantly obvious how much of a difference there is between USL teams and MLS teams. And sometimes, because of that inferior competition, and no disrespect, it's just what I see, the MLS teams will play down to their opponent. Fortunately, LAFC got off on the right foot, scored early on, and then put two more on, in particular, Tomas Angel getting his first goal. Stuff like that is fun to see. Cup sets are not fun to see. Hello, San Jose Earthquakes. But yeah, as we go further into this tournament and we start getting more stiffer competition, and New Mexico United is a team I'm going to look forward to seeing because they are one of the top teams in USL. It'll make it a lot more fun. But it also is fun to pay $20 for a ticket. But I will say this, for anybody listening within the LAFC front office, how about you make the first couple of rounds within the U.S. Open Cup free for season ticket holders and then charge $25 or whatever you want to for non-season ticket holders. I think at the very least it'd be kind of cool to get a game or two on the wrist. All I'm saying, just a suggestion. Hopefully that all pans out.
All right, so LAFC's next match this Saturday, May 25th at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Of course, that's Atlanta United. That has not been a place that we have enjoyed going in our club's history. We'll talk more about that on One More Sleep, that's for sure. And that's in 2 days. One More Sleep on Friday for the match against Atlanta United on Saturday.
No more sleep. I'm always tired. We're doing these things all the damn time. I'm constantly tired. I never have time to sleep. There's no more sleeps for me, Scar. That's why I'm ornery and tired and not with it these days.
Someone said that's not why you're ornery. That's another reason why you're ornery. That's Someone send Philly a hug out there, you guys. Look, we actually talked way longer about Loudoun United than we thought we would. Got an hour in on this episode. Just want to thank the millions
and millions.
Everybody in the chat, you guys are awesome. Soccer USA, Ruben, Isis, everybody.
Greg, it's what? 1 a.m. his time.
I know, right? Did we talk about Steve in the stand saying hi? Steve not coaching this one because of his red card, that's for sure. Yes?
We didn't, the press conference. We had to make sure we talked about the press conference real quick.
Go right ahead.
Ante is harboring the idea of coaching, FYI. He was asked. He's thinking about it. Timothy Tillman is really happy to be playing with his brother and Tomas Angel. I posted these up on the Defenders Instagram, by the way. So Scarf and I each had opportunities to ask questions. I don't think I asked Timothy anything. Did you?
Not Tillman, no.
Okay, so we asked both Ante and Tomas questions. So it's on the Instagram page. Go, if anything, go to the Tomas Angel one because you could genuinely see the joy that he had. He walked into the press conference holding the game ball. It's a very endearing scene, and you can tell he was happy. He was beaming. He was glowing. So go check that out too.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you head on over to defendersofthebank.com. Hit that shop page too. See if there's any merch that you would like to purchase. We'll have more merch coming up for sale soon too. Super fun. Make sure you get out there. Check out the merch. Want to thank everybody at 500 level for making that happen. And of course, Dexter, who helps us design all the amazing cool stuff that we do. And Philly, we've been doing this a long time. And you guys all know how we like to end all of these. This has been episode 303 of Defenders of the Bank. And we would just like to say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.